Alright guys, so if you saw my last video, my recent get, I picked up a Panasonic MSX Turbo R. Now there's a lot to talk about with this machine because there's a lot of really cool things that this thing can do that really sets it apart from any of the other MSX models. So I guess we'll start off by taking a look at the hardware itself. The MSX Turbo R. Released in 1990, this was one of the last major revisions of the MSX standard. While the MSX, based on the Zilog Z80 at 3.5 MHz, did receive modest upgrades throughout its life cycle, the Turbo R was a major departure from the previous models. Not only did it use the Zilog Z80 CPU, but it also had a custom 16-bit processor that was designed specifically for the Turbo R, called the R800. The R800 ran at 7.16 MHz, but was considered more of a RISC-type CPU, so in actuality it was a lot more efficient than a Z80, so it was far more powerful than just 2 times as fast as a standard Z80. This machine has the unique capabilities of being able to switch between the Z80 processor and the R800 processor on the fly seamlessly without any interruptions, and we'll touch on that a little bit more later in the video. It features the same Yamaha V9958 graphics processor as the MSX2 Plus, as well as the FM sound built in, the Yamaha YM2413. Panasonic was the only company to make the Turbo R, and there were only 2 models that Panasonic released. By 1990, pretty much everyone else had given up on the MSX standard and moved on to the IBM compatible or PC98. Now I have to say, the build quality of this machine is really nice. Even though it's made of plastic, my other MSX is actually pretty much solid steel. It's also pretty nice, but this, for being plastic, it's a really thick plastic. You can tell it's a high quality plastic. It just has a nice quality feel to it. So really, as far as that's concerned, the hardware is great. But forget about all that tech stuff. What about the games? This is an extremely capable games machine. In fact, it'll play the entire MSX library. The backwards compatibility between the 2 processors allows for you to play the entire range of MSX games from MSX1 all the way up to a couple of MSX Turbo R exclusives. And speaking of Turbo R exclusives, there aren't many. There are just a couple actually. But some of the newer games do actually support an R800 CPU mode that can be enabled. You can also enable the R800 CPU mode with a command on any of the legacy MSX games. Although this can cause some issues with the way the game performs just simply because of the increased horsepower. For those of you who want to use the Turbo R as a general purpose computer, or if you feel like writing that science paper in kanji, there is an operating system of sorts that's accessible if you boot up the computer without a cartridge installed. The UI is pretty useless unless you're very familiar with the Japanese language. So I guess the question you might have is the MSX Turbo R a good fit for me? Well, if you like to tinker with stuff and you like really unusual hardware, then I would say absolutely yes. This is about as wild as it gets. But if you're just looking for a system to pick up to play the great MSX library, then an MSX2 or even an MSX2 Plus would be pretty much perfect. There's not many Turbo R exclusives, and to be honest, they're really not that good, so you're not benefiting from much, especially when you consider in the additional expense. I would recommend just getting either MSX2 with an FM sound cartridge or get an MSX2 Plus that's got the FM sound built in. Hope you guys found this video informative and entertaining, and I hope you learned a little something about this great machine, and I'll see you guys next time.